Welcome to the RobatDesk podcast. I'm Rob Lazzi. Today with me is Joe Rockey Jr. Business. How would you qualify? How would you call yourself, Joe? Like a business? What would be the?
Well, I own many businesses. I think at the end of the day, the technical term is real estate investor. At least that's why I got to pay my taxes. So we'll go with that.
We just passed that time of the year where you had to clarify all that. What got you into real estate?
Well, coming out of college, I had a double major in accounting and finance. And the reason I chose those two was because they were skills that I knew every business needed. Every business needs to know where their money is. That's basically what accounting is. And finances is how can we get more money? And then during school, basically every job I had was a commission-only salesman. Depending upon which place I was at. I was one of those college guys who flung knives around for a long time.
Cutco.
Yeah, that was me. I was one of the few who were successful at it. And so that was really the three skill sets, because at the end of the day, a business needs to make money. Best way they can do that is sales. I was doing that through firsthand job experience. Second way is loans, and then you need to know where your money's at. So I figured that skill set was really important. But I was coming out during the last recession. What we're about to have right now, but the last go around, and the end of the day was, I turned people down before things got ugly, and then as things got ugly and everyone else was around me was getting stuff, the whole well dried up, with the only exception of being commission based jobs, because if you failed, whoever hired you didn't have to worry about you. We're only paying you if you make something, so if you don't make anything, it's on you.
You kill or you eat. Or you eat
exactly. Exactly. So at the end of the day, that's always kind of been the route I took. I took it personally because I'm the person who wants to get paid for what I do. And if it's better than $12 an hour or whatever, I'm getting paid more than 12. If it's worse, well, then results are what matter, isn't it? So I was already in that mindset, and most people cannot handle it. I mean, that's just fact of life. Most people want to just have, this is my check, call it a day.
Yep. What got you to that mindset where, where you get paid more for what you're producing, like on the sales side of things? Like, what do you think drew you? Did you play sports growing up? What got you to the sales? Like, I'm the weird guy that likes sales too. So
sales are great. I'm always competitive. So I did basically all the sports you do growing up. In high school, we were on the first team in Pennsylvania state history that went 16-0. We also were the first team who ever had an opportunity to do that, so that clause probably should be said. But nonetheless, we went 16-0, won states my senior year, all that fun stuff. So winning environment is just something that we've always been a part of. So when I took my first actual job, it was when I was still in high school. It was not commission. And I felt like all I was doing was just sitting around. I was doing the job, It wasn't like I was trying to skip it around. I just felt like I should have been getting more. At the same time, realizing that I am definitely the lowest person on this totem pole. I was some high school kid. There's no relevance to think you were going to be higher. And then I always had this thought in my head that, and rightfully or wrongfully, I think there's a little bit right and a little bit wrong with it, is that to really get promoted and get paid bigger money, you had to play politics in some capacity or another. And I just knew I was never going to do that because I'm way too direct with people. If you're doing something wrong, I'm going to let you know, and I don't really care who you are. So that's kind of was in my head a deterrent away from trying to play the political game of climbing a ladder or whatever. So my thought process
is that what got you then doing your own thing?
Yeah, ultimately, yeah. That's what got me into commission, because at the end of the day, there is no politics in the size of your sale. It's, does the person sitting across from you who has the money for your product, do they want to do this or not? And how much do they want? And at the end of the day, I take that as that's on me, the salesman. So I just need to pick the right company I want to represent in terms of them being something I want to represent. So that's how I looked at it. But that's how I got into it in terms of the mindset. And, the place I went into after college ended up being not what they advertised themselves to be. Took me 2.5 years to realize it. But once they did that, I ended up sitting in the back of a bunch of real estate meetings, listening to the guys complain about their tenants, say what they were doing. And, the realization came to me, all of these guys are making way more money than me. I was doing 70 plus hours a week because you had to get in at 6 a.m. to start calling people before secretaries arrived. And, your last appointment, it was normally after your call session at night, which didn't end until 8. Then you're going to someone's house after that to try to sell them something. So the hours really add up quick, not to mention the time in the car. So,
right.
So I'm sitting in the back of this meeting realizing all these guys are doing stuff better than me. Why don't we go into this? Why don't we see what this real estate thing is all about and see how we can do it? And it's nowhere near as easy as they try to make it on TV. When I started in Allegheny County, it was a 97% failure rate.
Wow.
When whoever starts their first flip, you basically are never doing another one. And obviously, I'm still here over a decade later, so I made it work. But part of the reason I made it work is I was actually doing 2 at the same time.
Interesting.
I bought the second flip before the first one was concluded, and that first one, I mean, you name it, I did it wrong. Any potential mistake, obvious or subtle, I did it wrong. And then the second one, we made up for it and then some. So it really worked out.
Did you have a background in like craftsmanship or like with a saw, or did you hang drywall? Did you,
Nope, none of it. I basically knew how to do nothing, at least on a level that was worth selling. I mean, I could do stuff that you could, patch up and in your own house type thing that you could live with, but nothing that would be worthy to be sold.
So you had to learn all that or hire people to do all that work?
Yeah, it started off as hiring people to do it. Now I can rewire a house. I can basically build a house from scratch now.
Wow.
We're a decade later. I don't do it because I hate being on roofs. But
that's fair. That's fair.
At the end of and I hate painting. They're like the opposite ends of the spectrum.
Oh my God.
Painting is too boring for me, and it's too detail intense. Something about me doesn't do it.
What's interesting? Yeah, what's interesting with painting is like my wife and I, we just sold a house last summer, and so we both like capable of painting. We both painted before, and we both started going. We both have day jobs. Would you rather take all weekend to paint the upstairs before we sell the house, or we can hire a guy and have our weekends still?
Yeah, it's
that whole concept that I'm sure you've seen those studies where it's like, what's more valuable to you, time, or your like they did a. My wife works in HR, so she sends me all these really cool studies that they get. It's like. Time is like they gave one group X amount of money and said you could spend it on whatever stuff you want to go spend it on. And they did like how happy were you before or after type study. And it was relatively the same with stuff. But then the second group, they go, well, do stuff that'll save you time, like hire a cleaner, hire someone to do your grocery shopping, do the stuff that, is your daily tasks just to, keep living. And those people were way happier.
Oh, sure.
When you save time. And so it's interesting when you talk about people hating painting. I think it's that, like, one of my favorite sales call techniques is like, or techniques are, to overcome an objection is like, I'm not selling you something, Joe, that you don't know how to do already. But like, I can change my own oil. I've done it before, but I want to do something else on Saturday. It's like, you can do this, whatever I'm selling too, but don't you want to do something else in your free time? You go for a hike. You want to go for a bike ride. You want to go to a ball game. You don't want to, that's what you're hiring me to do is so you can go do the fun things.
Yeah, that's exactly true. And I do think that there is a limit to that, though. And I think that we as an economy is finally getting there because America always takes everything to the excess eventually. Yep. So I do think that while, as you said, there is something to knowing I can do this, I just don't want to do it, and having someone else do that. But there is a certain threshold of basic things that I think that it's just good for your mind to still do rather than outsourcing everything. I'm not like not complicated stuff, like cutting the grass and stuff like that.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. And every personality type has a different thing. Like there are guys who love painting, like it relaxes them and all that. And,
my theory on that is if you work in a job where you don't really see your incremental success moving forward, it's tough. Like if you're a handyman and you're doing stuff like I built this house, you can see the work being done. But sometimes in sales, there's weeks or months that go by where you don't see much progress in certain things.
Oh yeah.
And so then the idea of I like mowing my yard. I try to make it look like you could do batting practice on my, or chip on it or whatever, right? and then the dog kills it with her pee. But it's like, but like, there's that idea of like you're mowing and like 30 minutes later, you can see what you've done. Like, oh, it looks better because of the work I put into. But when you work in creative processes or sales processes, sometimes it looks ugly for so long before you go, oh, there's actually, it's working. The 100 calls a day is working or whatever.
Oh, that's 100% true. Yeah. And yeah, there's no way around that. I mean, even if it's successful at the end of the day, I mean, spreadsheets can just, even if the numbers on them change, they can just become mind-numbingly white to you. You know what I mean? Staring at the same thing over and I've been there. I mean, no matter how many people try to make a new fancy system for your pipeline of your sales, at the end of the day, you're still looking at a computer screen. I don't care what color it is. It's still, you need to call enough people. You need enough prospects to get your batting average to be able to get to the final sale. And actually, on that note, I know that of the whole sales process, I personally hate the prospecting side of it. It's the side to me that was the worst. I know it's important. Don't get me wrong. You can't get people in the door, you can't sell. That's life. But to me, it was agonizing because I was very good and much preferred the actual being in front of people. So what I did in my real estate world very early on was I realized I don't want to deal with Craigslist and comb through Facebook and try to find people who want to sell their houses. I'd rather pay someone to do that. And that's why when you asked me in the beginning, what is my business? I have like 9 of them. And it's all because I have different partners that do this prospecting side of the world for me, and they get a cut of the action. So rather than having one company and doing contracts for each house, you get paid this, that, or the other, we just created a company for each dude. So, and the cool part about the modern world is some of these people I've never met. One of them I've met once. He was going to Toronto. He was driving through Pittsburgh. We sat down. We had lunch one day, and he went back to Florida when it was all said and done. And he that's the joy of the internet. You can do Facebook stuff, Craigslist stuff, now Instagram, basically anywhere. Not to mention all the call center stuff that's available to people. So all of that stuff is important. I know it's important, but I don't want to do it. So, and the reason I don't want to do it is really, truth be told, is I'm not that good at it compared to the closing side of the world. So find someone who matches you, make it happen.
It's knowing your strengths. It's like if you're, it's the people that for the stories or the analogies, like, you don't ask the duck to climb the tree. That's the squirrel. It's like know your roles, know your skills. And because there's someone out there that's like, oh, I hate asking people for the money, but I'll gladly see if they're interested.
Yeah, and that was the cool part. Like when I broke through that line, it was definitely 2012 because I remember it. Like it was a group of people that like I never would have interacted with, but once I got on the other side of their fence, like 10 of them just flocked to me. It was like, oh, it was great in terms of business world. It was like just being a magnet and grabbing everything that I was looking for, while being on the other side of the fence was the opposite. There was one of them and 5,000 of me trying to find there. And it was really cool. And to anyone out there, I think that there's this perception of people get taught that you should find someone who's as close to you but a little bit weaker, like people do with they're looking for their backup quarterback in the NFL. Like, all right, that's great if you're doing a plug and play system, but not everyone on the team is the quarterback. You need someone who can catch the ball, someone who can block for you, and all that stuff. So when I look at it like that, that's just a starting point that many people make when they're starting their businesses.
Well, I think it was Andy Stanley who said something along the lines like, I don't know if you've heard of Andy Stanley, church guy down in Georgia, I think Atlanta area. And with the idea of like when he was a youth pastor, he hated doing the administrative work. And so he thought everybody else did. So he's like, he hated pawning that off. But there's all these people around him going, no, I can't wait to do that. That's the part I want to do. I want to keep you organized. I want to do the calendar. I want to do this stuff. And he's like, oh. And then once you realize there's people out there with different skill sets that you can, hand things off to and delegate, it's like not everyone hates the same things you hate or likes the same things you like.
Yeah, I had that, like I said, that was the realization I had, and America doesn't understand that as a concept, at least on Twitter, that you can have people that believe something different than you and still like themselves and like life. Just because they want to do the opposite of you does not make them a bad person.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Different
there.
from you. Yeah, exactly. How could you see a problem from a different angle than I do, and how dare you think that that's accurate? So like I said, that's just something that we do in general as a great old nation here.
No, absolutely. You mentioned something earlier, getting ready for the next recession that you see coming. You're in the real estate market. What do you see coming in the, as we're recording this here in mid-May 2022, what do you foresee coming over the summer and the winter in the market?
Yeah, so I think to answer that question correctly, let me tell you what I've seen to get to this point, because I think it shows the conclusion kind of clearly. And this is obviously bubbled into my world of being the real estate, but let's face it, real estate kind of drives our economy, so that there's certainly a basis behind this thought process. So starting with March Madness of 19? Maybe it was 20. I forget which year it was now. COVID took forever. Guess it was 20. That they shut down all banks' ability to do foreclosures, and they shut down, depending upon your state, the ability to evict people. And then granted, the foreclosures are still closed today. Each state gradually was able to turn on evictions upon their own rules as they chose. As you can look around the country, the majority, with the exception of basically Florida and Texas, of major cities in this country were held hostage by places that were shut down forever. And as a result, for example, Pennsylvania was only allowed to re-evict people starting in February. I had people in court the second day we were allowed to, and I only got the sheriff to give me the house back on Monday of this week. So we're talking basically 3 months of extra time on top of the 2 years prior to that where they were able to live for free. Now, during that time, they gave people checks or whatever that the government said you have to give. But at the same time, they also required us to pay all the taxes. So effectively,
I was going to ask about that. Like they go, hey, you got to give them rent free, but you got to pay the property taxes, et cetera.
Yeah, it was basically a flow through from the federal government to my school district and the school district that these properties are in. So it was a workaround through that, where the real estate guys, yes, we got a check that might have been significant, but at the end of the day, we haven't been paid for 2 years. There's significant costs that take to operate a business. And I'm just talking about the rental side right now. Yeah. I'll get into flips in a minute. So everyone's essentially a net loss there. And what I did in the very beginning is I kind of tried to talk to each one that would be willing to speak with and see if we could figure out a plan through this. And the ones that were able to communicate with me and stuff like that, we made things work. The ones that ran away and hid and then ultimately didn't pay anything, I came down with as hard as I could. It was just not acceptable to run away and hide when I was trying to figure out a way together through a problem. So that being said, it was estimated that roughly 40% of the population of Pennsylvania who was renting flat out stopped paying 100%.
Oh, wow.
So if you're a landlord and you own 5 units, I pick 5 to make math easy, 40% is 2 of your units. When you get a rental back that you had to evict someone, it needs work. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. You do not get the Taj Mahal back after you evict someone, period. So that costs money to fix it up. You also just didn't get paid for the last 2 years, so you don't really have the capital to do it, and you now have 2 broken houses. Not to mention the emotional, do I really want to do this again, just to have the governor tell me I'm not worthy enough to keep my business open. And that last statement people brush off as irrelevant, but that is incredibly massive, that you just got told your business is irrelevant, that you spent your life to build. A lot of people are not getting over that. And they're taking their frustrations out in different ways. Some of it is to just pay whoever's running against Governor Wolf. Some of it is just run away and sell everything. And basically every emotion in between. So as a result, there's the emotional and economic reasons why you're going to have to get rid of at least one of those 2 rentals that are broken. So we look at this from the value of the real estate perspective, that I have 2 broken houses. I don't have the ability to fix them, and they're in rental neighborhoods. So we're not talking about the super rich, wealthy areas. We're talking about the lower areas of any given city. And again, the longer that you were on COVID courts closed break, the bigger this problem gets. So now what are you going to do? You're going to try to liquidate that house just to get it out of your life, because you need to get something back for it. So really, there's 2 ways you can do it. You either just sell it for whatever someone's willing to do, or you try to go through an insurance route to try to get something back. And the insurance companies know this, and they don't want to give anything. So really, at the end of the day, your only option is to sell it. And if you're sitting around realizing that there was virtually no supply of these rental houses because no one could evict it. In Pennsylvania, at least, it is a nightmare to get rid of your own tenant.
Oh, wow.
It is 1,000 times worse to get rid of someone else's tenant. So no one buys properties that have someone else's tenant in it. So you have to wait for it to get vacant. So now all of these properties that people are starting to get kicked out now are just finally starting to become available. And it's basic supply and demand. You have crushed the will and the desire of a ton of landlords who would have bought these properties. And now there is a ton of supply. So when demand is low and supply is high, prices fall through the floor.
Oh, yeah.
And that's that's basic economics. That's not me creating an opinion. That's fact that they teach at any economics 101. And that is what's going to happen here as a direct result of Biden essentially saying, keep everything shut down and don't allow evictions to happen. And then all of his respective underling governors. So if you're in Texas or Florida, this is completely irrelevant to you. Keep living life. I wish I was there. But if you're here, if you're in Pittsburgh, if you're in Michigan, you're in California, New York, welcome to hell. And on the other side, I saw this coming. So while this all was going on at the same time, the government kind of realized we got to do something to try to keep this economy afloat. So they made interest rates essentially nothing again.
Oh, yeah.
And we refinanced everything that had a decent tenant in it. And we just got a pile of money, and we're waiting for the day of the sale. I'm going to buy 6 houses for the price of 3.
It's going to be
great.
I was going to ask, like, it's like some people become buyers at that moment, like, and this is, it's like this is a great opportunity for people like you, preparing for knowing when the downturn's there and the supply is going to actually be there. Because like
for the people
because like out here in the Denver area, like the prices skyrocketed over COVID. Once COVID kind of got to the tail end, like there was the valuation of homes went through the roof, and they're still going up, but I think they've kind of plateaued a little bit just because of supply and demand. And now with interest rates, like we're in a new build area, and one of my wife's friends was on the list for one of the builders. And when interest rates, for the most, I wouldn't say truly doubled, but around there, from like in the upper 2s now to the lower 5s-ish where they're at today, but expected to probably go into the 6s here before too long.
Well, they're going to have to.
Yeah.
They're going to have to keep going up. But
which is still pretty cheap money overall in the 5s. Like
historically, anything less than 5.5 is a win.
Yeah.
I mean, period.
Yeah, people people are freak out about
spoiled.
5s, but you're like, that's really cheap money.
It is. I mean, we were really, really spoiled for the last 15 years?
Yeah.
I guess the 2000s in total, I guess, about them being so low. And it's something you should be for. But in terms of what you're experiencing about livable properties being through the roof over the last year and a half or so, that's also a direct result of the COVID side. That's flipping side of the equation, because you only had properties available that people were selling for normal life issues. I got a bigger family, I'm selling the smaller house. What you did not get was the foreclosure market re-entering the world and people renovating those properties and creating them. And now this is a thing where, again, each state is different. But for the first half of COVID, we weren't allowed to have our crews on site. Like, they weren't allowed to be there working. And we had people in the Pittsburgh area getting shot and shut down, and some of them even getting arrested for trying to be a roofer. Like,
Jeez.
You're on a roof. But like, no, that
wasn't considered essential work? Like,
it was only essential if there was someone living in the house. So if it was a vacant property or something like that you were renovating to sell to put on the market, it didn't happen.
But isn't that crazy? Like what you're talking though, like with like a politician basically just said, "Hey, your business isn't viable at the moment. We're going to shut you down."
Yeah.
Like to have that type of power over someone's like, "Hey, well, like just overnight go, nope, can't."
Yeah,
do it.
basically, you're not worthy to work, and so you shut up. I'll give you a minimal check, so you go away. That really what it was, and to me, it's incredibly wrong. It's completely uncapitalistic, and the fact that so many people bought into it, is
scary.
fear, and it is. And don't get me wrong, I understand the concept that you don't want your grandparents to die. I get that, but at the end of the day, this is far from the first pandemic we had. It ended up being nowhere near as deadly as the N1H1 that we had. And you can go into all kinds of facts, but I just remember in the very beginning when they told me I wasn't relevant, I started diving in, listening to actually what they were saying and seeing how many times they changed their goalposts. And I became very upset with what they were trying to sell. Not necessarily saying that the disease wasn't real or it wouldn't hurt you or it wouldn't be awesome. Just the way that the government was going about it was just wholly unacceptable, and kind of makes me glad that I have a podcast that I was on the record saying this stuff throughout the period. But nonetheless, I say that to say that no one was allowed to create the new broken properties, so your supply dropped below normal means. And this is the exact same situation we just lived through. Supply was lower than normal. Demand is relatively the same as normal. So all of these high-end properties just got a bubble put on them. And, you know, we created an artificial bubble by the COVID rules that were in place. In probably 3 years, because that's about roughly how long it takes for a foreclosure to go through the court process. And those are mostly federal laws. So that's essentially everywhere. All of the foreclosures are going to come through. And when that happens, now every market, not just the low-end rental areas, are going to get affected. So you're going to have just banks getting all of these properties back. And yes, there are some laws that they have to list the price at X, but there's only so long that a bank will sit with dead assets on its books. It's going to want to get rid of them quick enough. And yes, Congress has put a lot of rules regulating banks in terms of how they can do that. And it's a lengthy process. So the full-fledged real estate hammer of the recession is going to happen after the labor market side, which will inevitably prolong the recession that we have. Because right now we have people who just got paid not to work, so now they don't want to work. And if they do work, they want to get paid at least what they got paid to do nothing, which was above market rates. So you've just created an unrealistic expectation for the price of labor. You've destroyed the value of your currency. And not to mention, you've destroyed the will of people who want to hire them, being the business owners. You have done basically the worst thing you can do from the psychological side of business owners and the labor market that you could have done. And it makes me wonder if this was not somewhat intentional, or are they just that flat out incompetent? Either way, the results are plainly, and this is going to be way worse than the 08, 09, mostly because of the ways that it's going to come in waves. It's not going to be, 09 was just one major problem, hit all at once, we got through it. This is going to be staggered. And people are going to think it's over, and then the real estate hammer is going to drop. And, that's the way it is. You can't allow people to effectively renege on all their promises, because while this happened to the price of houses, it's also going to happen to the price of electricity, the price of water, the price of every other utility, because they weren't allowed to turn those off either. So at the end of the day, it's going to be all the responsible people paying for all the irresponsible people, which is effectively what the government system is built to do if you look at it objectively.
Yeah, no, it's interesting you say, like, did they do it intentionally, or part of me goes like, I don't know if they did it intentionally, but just like any politicians, they don't let a good disaster go to waste. And even if it's like self-created, it's like the student loan issue. It's like the government created the student loan issue, and now they're going, we can't keep doing this. or we have to forgive
Yeah.
these debts. You're like, but you guys created this issue. And then you used to go, like, I'm all for trying to help someone out that, got stuck in a hard spot or whatever. You kind of go, but how do you stop this from happening again? And there's no real...
in terms of the student loan issue, here's what I can stop from it doing again. And I know this because I have a series of nieces and nephews who are all in high school right now, so they're all looking at colleges. When we were coming up through college was a product industry. They were making people to be productive in the workforce.
Correct.
And somewhere in the last decade or so, they shifted into a service industry where they just want as many bodies there. And the reason is because now all the student loans are, I think Obama put this law through, so I don't remember exactly when. It was during his administration. Mm-hmm. But every student loan is now backed by the federal government, regardless of the bank that's on the loan.
Yeah.
So what really needs to happen is the colleges need to become responsible for the loans.
They need to be the co-signer.
Forget the sign. They create their own financing method.
Correct.
And if they get someone in the middle, so be it. The federal government no government should be involved in that transaction. It should strictly be between the college and the recipient, because then it will change everything. Now it's not, I just want you here for 6 years so we can keep getting more checks. It's, I need to make sure you can pay me back one day.
Oh yeah.
And that puts it back into a completely different realm that it should be. We're creating better workers in one capacity or another.
Oh.
Like, obviously, I'm not saying there's no need for college. I'm not trying to say that at all. But I'm saying the colleges need to be responsible, and at least to a percentage, that burden has shifted. And to me, that's the crux of the problem.
And when all that happened, if you look at the price of what university shot up to, it's like all of a sudden, like, an organization has guaranteed money.
So why not charge as much?
Yeah, I mean, you're talking. I saw something, and it was it was to an exponential factor outpacing inflation, the rate of the cost of university, which was that's a whole nother topic. And
it's why would you not? I mean, you basically have society saying you have to buy this product.
Oh yeah,
or else you're going to feel like a fail, and you have no repercussions if you fail at making your product. So why would you not charge infinity for it?
Oh yeah,
I can make the worst product ever, and people are guaranteed to buy it.
Well,
let's cut cost and take in the profit.
As someone who buys homes and flips them and rents them out, imagine if the government said, "Hey, you know what? We'll guarantee whoever you put in there for whatever rate you give them." Why wouldn't you charge? Yeah. Why wouldn't you double or triple rent every year?
Yeah, you absolutely would, and then you keep bare minimum standards to keep it going. Personally, that's my problem with Section 8 housing.
Yeah.
It's that I think that artificially suppresses areas.
Oh, yeah.
Because the landlords have no incentive to make it better, because they know they're not going to be able to get it to the rent value if they fully fix up the house just because of the location it's in.
Yeah.
But when you're just giving people a check to not care, all you're doing is accelerating the decline. And that is fundamentally why I'm against Section 8 and why I do rent to owns. But that's just a core macro problem that probably can take an hour and a half to discuss. If you really wanted to.
Right, no doubt. Well, if people want to get connected with you or follow up with you, what's the best way for them to stay in touch with you, Joe?
Yeah, I mean, you can send me a direct email at the number 412 and the word homes @gmail.com. That's my direct email to you, and that's the one I give out to everyone. Again, the number 412 and the word homes @gmail.com. 412 is the area code for Pittsburgh. I'm not really being super creative with that. And then, like I said, if anyone is ever interested in learning about how to partner up with me, because I do that, they could be anywhere in the country. And then the other way that people can reach out to me is, as I mentioned, I do a podcast that is called Father and Joe. We do discuss kind of macro sociological issues there, but we do it through the framework of an institution that has dealt with these human nature issues before, which is the church. So he is a Catholic priest, and we just look at how has the church dealt with problems like people invading other countries for no reason. Like, how has the church dealt with that in the past? How should we deal with marriage and stuff like that. So you name it, we've probably discussed it. We've done well over 250 episodes. So those are the two ways people get in touch with me, and we definitely wouldn't mind either one.
Perfect. Well, we'll put those connections in our description and let people get connected with you. Joe, I really appreciate the time. I appreciate the insight. I feel like I could have talked to you for another hour or two about things. So I'll check out your podcast too.
Perfect. Well, I appreciate that. And if you ever want me back, just ring me up.
Will do, Joe. I appreciate it. For reference, he used the same email to reach out to me or when we got connected. So it is a legit email. It's him responding to it. It's not some underling or mogul or whatever. That's
me. That blows up my phone.
So, and then I guess one last question is what do you say to Cleveland Browns fans this year? Do they have any hope out there?
Cleveland, well, first off, no, because they've actually done the most Cleveland thing ever. So it was the greatest thing ever. My niece is 18, and prior to that playoff game last year, Cleveland has never won in Pittsburgh, which is the greatest thing ever. You think about it, for 18 years, you go every single year never to win there. That's awesome. But really what they've done is they've put themselves in a situation where, assuming Watson is perfect, and nothing bad ever happens to him again, because they have sold all of their capital down the river, they're going to have to inevitably take risks on people who are bad character guys that drop in the draft because no one wants them on their team. And that's going to be their whole roster. And the ironic part of this is what they consider their beatable rival in the Bengals. That's what the Bengals did my entire life. The Burficts of the world and the Pac-Man Joneses. That's going to be Cleveland. And it's inevitable, and that's what their next 4 drafts will just be, picking up players like that with Watson as their quarterback. So depending upon how his PR scandal goes over the next year or so, they could literally have just made themselves worse than Dan Snyder in terms of public relations with the NFL. And they've set themselves up to do it. And, when you only live in the world of numbers, you can forget about emotions. And I think that might have been what happened. Because I actually do think that they finally had a good coach. But I do think that they shot themselves in the foot, and they did it hard. Yeah, no, absolutely. No, I can't agree more, especially as a Dolphin fan and now a Denver fan out here. So, So have fun with Wilson, man. Absolutely. We're hoping so. Everyone's got pretty high expectations on sports radio out here. So absolutely. Yeah. So you guys got a great receiving core. Let's hope someone can get it to him. So we can block the guy up front. So that's another problem. All right, Joe, I appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon. All right. Thank you very much. All right. Thank you, sir. Bye.